Record-breaking extreme temperatures push their way into the deep south as tens of millions of Americans battle the brutal cold. When will it finally end? Taking the stand, flanked by family and friends, Kerry Kennedy, set to testify at her drug driving trial this morning. But will that help or hurt her case? And welcome home. Fresh from their gold medal winning performance in Sochi,
Davis and White lit up the ice.
Olympic ice dancing champs Merrill Davis and Charlie White take to our rink here in Rockefeller Center. Only on today, Wednesday, February 26th, 2014.
From NBC News, this is Today with Matt Lauer and Savannah Guthrie, live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
Are you doing that first?
Yes. 1 minute.
Oh. The only time it makes. That's weird.
Perfect. Yeah, great. About a minute away.
Yes.
What's that about the waste?
Yes. Freeze. Yes.
That opening. So at your close, if you want to pick something up.
Good morning. All eyes on Arizona. Governor Jan Brewer sends out a late-night tweet on that controversial bill criticized for being anti-gay. With pressure mounting from all sides, will she veto it as early as today? Record-breaking extreme temperatures push their way into the deep south as tens of millions of Americans battle the brutal cold. When will it finally end? Taking the stand, flanked by family and friends, Kerry Kennedy, set to testify at her drug driving trial this morning. But will that help or hurt her case?
From NBC News, this is Today with Matt Lauer and Savannah Guthrie, live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning. Welcome to Today on a Wednesday morning.
That's a nice way to start the show.
It really is. We've got Merrill and Charlie out on the Rock Center rink practicing for a performance a little later on in the show.
And look, it's snowing a little bit, too.
Is it? It just adds to the atmosphere. It's not bad.
Actually, just a special effect.
Yeah, it's great. Want to alert people to another story that's coming up later in the show. If you're a parent of a teenager and you think because that teen is underage, he or she can't get their hands on alcohol, wait till you see what happened when in a hidden camera investigation, we had teens walk up to adults they didn't even know and ask them to buy them alcohol.
The results will surprise you, especially when they divide along gender lines in a very interesting way. So we'll have that report coming up. But we want to start with our top story, and it is more critics lining up against that bill in Arizona that would allow businesses to refuse service to gays. The decision whether or not to veto this bill is now in the hands of Governor Jan Brewer, who just returned home from a trip to Washington. NBC's Mike Taibbi's in Phoenix this morning with the latest. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning, Savannah. Governor Brewer actually has until the end of the week to make her decision, but the pressure has been mounting to finally kill the bill that at the very least has reignited the culture wars. To the devout Christians who gathered in a Phoenix church Tuesday night, the bill that's triggered daily protests has nothing to do with gender-based discrimination and only to do with freedom of religious expression.
I have a right as a business owner to say I've refused to serve you for whatever particular reason.
But what if the reason is that the customers are gay, like the same-sex couples refused wedding flowers in Washington State and a wedding cake in Oregon? By show of hands, how many think that's okay?
They refuse?
To refuse, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of business owners have been doing the math, like hotel owner Ben Bethel, who emphasizes he serves everyone, but has already heard about possible cancellations.
About $12,000 to $14,000 in lost revenue to the hotel And that itself results in almost $2,000 in local and state sales tax revenues lost.
Estimates are it's not thousands, but untold millions at stake if the bill becomes law and triggers corporate and tourist dollar flight, especially from LGBT tourists.
This is a proposal that will send tourists away and their dollars.
That's why companies like Apple and American Airlines are urging a veto, as are notable Republicans like John McCain and Mitt Romney, and even state Republican senators, including Steve Pierce, who supported and voted for the bill and have now changed their minds.
We made a mistake, and now we got to fix it.
Overnight, Governor Brewer tweeted, "I assure you, as always, I will do the right thing for the state of Arizona." If Governor Brewer does veto the bill, ultra-conservative talkers like Rush Limbaugh say they know who's to blame.
He's being bullied by the homosexual lobby in Arizona and elsewhere.
Many of those in this church agree.
Where does it stop?
Now, it's up to the governor. Now, the governor has been careful since the bill hit her desk to not tip her hand, but one of her aides was quoted yesterday as saying this bill was never part of her agenda. Another hint that a veto is likely. Savannah?
All right, Mike Taibbi in Phoenix this morning. Thank you.
I'm Nicole Wallace, is Republican strategist who worked in the White House during the Bush administration. Nicole, nice to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's look at this in both ways. Let's say she decides not to veto this bill. So business owners in Arizona can decide not to provide service to or employment to people based on their sexual orientation.
Right.
What's the immediate impact?
Well, I don't think that's what she's going to do, but I think that it took a long time last night to even find out and discover who was originally behind this, because even the Republicans in the Arizona state legislature who had voted for this measure have now reversed themselves after seeing the way it's been received as so discriminatory when that wasn't the original intent. The original intent was a noble one, to protect religious freedoms, but that is not how it's been understood by the people of Arizona, and that's why you see even people that supported it now urging her to veto it.
So let's say she does veto it, and keep in mind this did have support at one time in Arizona. It passed
not
both.
Too long ago.
No, that's right. It passed both houses of the state legislature. If she does veto it, she's got cover, by the way, economic cover. What's the impact?
Well, I think that she will be viewed as having listened to not just the people of Arizona, who are now protesting in pretty large numbers, but in maybe sending a message to people who want to fight for religious liberties, which again is a noble cause, that those measures need to be more targeted, and they cannot send the message that Arizona is going to discriminate against any group of people.
Yeah, you say it's a noble cause, but the bill itself does force the question, do the religious freedoms of one group trump the right not to be discriminated against for another group? How do you answer that question?
No doubt, in this case, they did not strike the right balance, but I think that we have to be careful not to paint this with too broad a brush, because I think the specific effort of trying to protect religious freedoms has in mind protecting anybody's personal belief system and not forcing them to do something that violates that. But in this case, no doubt, you've got Republicans saying, I hear you, and understanding that the consequences of measures like this are so grave, not just for our party, but for our country, to be viewed as not tolerating any group of people.
And since you can't take politics out of any issue these days, coming up to a midterm elections, if this bill becomes the law, what's the impact on the Republican Party?
Well, again, I don't think it's going to. I think she's going to veto it. But I think Republicans are saying, I hear you. I understand the problems we've had in recent elections, and we're not going to get dogged. We're not going to get painted with this brush that we discriminate against any group of people, gay Americans or any other. I think it's also an important signal that we listen to businesses. You've got the Super Bowl threatening to relocate and move away from Arizona. You've got Apple, a big and important company, an employer in that state, very wary. So I think if she vetoes it, it will be a sign that she was listening, not just to the people in her state, but the employers in her state.
Nicole Wallace. Nicole, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Meantime, another big story we're following this morning, the latest blast of Arctic air thanks to the polar vortex, and it is expanding single digits this morning across much of the Midwest, near or below freezing, well into the south. We're going to get Al's forecast in just a moment, but first let's get to Dylan Dreyer. She's in Chicago along the frozen shore of Lake Michigan. Dylan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Savannah. Extremely frozen. Millions are waking up to absolutely freezing temperatures again this morning. The wind chill right here in Chicago is minus 14 degrees, and this Arctic air is blasting across much of the country. And, you know, I've spent most of the winter out in this, but I went to quite an extreme to finally try to embrace it.
Winter 2014
just won't quit.
I've never, ever seen the roads this bad.
In Minnesota, commuter chaos caused by dozens of rollovers and spinouts. Throughout much of the Midwest, the problem is ice jams and the potential for serious flooding once winter loosens its grip. In Northwest Ohio, there are dozens of rivers clogged with ice. There's no escaping the sub-zero temperatures for electrical crews and others forced to work outdoors. With this latest Arctic blast, some folks find if you can't escape it, you might as well enjoy it. Kids both big and little take to the ice to enjoy the outdoors in downtown Chicago. And in Lake Michigan, the city's annual polar plunge is set for Sunday, despite frigid temps and frozen waters. Mike Yonk plans to do it again for the 7th time. His advice for out-of-towners like me?
Just jump in and get out as quick as possible.
So we're geared up and ready to go.
Maybe Sunday.
I was literally this close to jumping into Lake Michigan, but look at it. It's frozen solid. They are going to get bulldozers in here to clear this out for Sunday's plunge. It benefits Special Olympics Chicago, and our own Jimmy Fallon has agreed to take the plunge. Now, on Sunday morning, it's going to be about 15 degrees. The water temperature, a balmy 30 degrees. Al, that sounds kind of tempting, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, watch out, there's a polar bear behind you. Careful. All right, Dylan, thank you so much. And if that's not bad enough, all right, we've got freezing cold, wind chill warnings, wind chill advisories, wind chill watches from the Dakotas all the way into Ohio. Look at these winds gusting of over 30 miles per hour, and look at your temperatures with the wind chills. Minneapolis, it feels like 23 below, 2 below in Kansas City, Chicago, 15 below, Cleveland 3 below, and look at these overnight lows. Air temperatures tomorrow morning, where Minneapolis will be at minus 13, 18 in Kansas City, Bismarck 15, and it's even colder on Friday, making its way into the Great Lakes, 7 in Cleveland, 4 in Indianapolis. Here in the Northeast and the Southeast, look at these temperatures dropping back Thursday morning. It's only 26 in Atlanta, Mobile, 32 degrees, and then as we move on into Friday morning, it's 27 in Atlanta. Into the Northeast, it's 11 in New York City, Saranac Lake, 6 below, 8 in Bangor. Guess what? A reinforcing shot of cold air on Saturday, and this big storm system that's moving into the West Coast tonight makes its way across the country, and maybe another big storm for us from the Midwest into the Northeast Sunday into Monday.
Unsubscribe, Al. No more winter.
We're done with you, Al.
Hashtag not my fault.
We're done with you.
Hashtag get off my back.
We quit you, Al. We quit you.
All right, Al, thank you. Meantime, the president is talking tough when it comes to U.S. troops overseas, and Natalie has more on that.
That's right. President Obama now drawing a line with Afghanistan, telling President Hamid Karzai, sign an agreement to ensure the safety of any remaining U.S. troops, or all of them are coming home by the end of this year. NBC's Jim Miklashevsky has the story from Kabul.
Natalie, General Dempsey will be meeting with his military commanders here today at Bagram Air Base. And clearly, they're going to talk about President Obama's order to come up with plans to pull all American forces out of Afghanistan by the end of this year. Now, General Dempsey told us that he could not in good conscience order U.S. military men and women into Afghanistan if there was no bilateral security agreement that would protect them. General Dempsey worries, though, that al-Qaeda is still alive and active here in Afghanistan, and he's concerned that if the U.S. leaves, they'll be leaving that part of the job undone. And while General Dempsey would clearly like to keep a small residual American force here in Afghanistan, there is indeed a growing sentiment among some U.S. military officials, both here in Afghanistan and back in Washington, that now may be the best time ever for the U.S. to pick up and pull out of Afghanistan. Natalie.
Jim Miklashevsky there in Kabul. Well, if you own a GM car, you're going to want to listen up. We've got a huge recall to tell you about. General Motors is doubling the size of a recall to nearly 1.4 million cars for an ignition switch defect. The automaker had previously recalled some Chevrolet Cobalt and Pontiac G5 models, but it has added to the list now the Saturn Ions, Chevrolet HHRs, Pontiac Solstice, and Saturn Sky models. GM says 13 people have died in crashes where the front airbags did not deploy due to the ignition switch defect that can cause the cars to stall. Hollywood meets Capitol Hill in Washington today. Oscar winner Ben Affleck will meet with Secretary of State John Kerry about the Democratic Republic of Congo. The actor is the founder of a nonprofit group called the Eastern Congo Initiative. And actor Seth Rogen will also be on the Hill representing the National Alzheimer's Association. He'll take part in a Senate hearing. A police dispatcher is out of a job in Oklahoma today after officials say she was caught on camera smoking pot on the job. It happened after an officer was unable to get a hold of the dispatcher on a two-way radio. Police say that's because she was out near the garage door smoking pot. When he came back to check on her, he smelled marijuana and confronted the dispatcher. They say she eventually fessed up, so the officer had no choice but to arrest his co-worker, and she agreed to resign.
All right, Mr. Roker.
Hey, guess what? We got some snow. Take a look at the latest radar, and by gosh, snow from Washington to New York. D.C., you're going to see some light snow, but by evening, things clear out. We're going to get to your local forecast coming up in the next 30 seconds. And that's your latest weather.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, the weather is a big part of our next story. If you're about to head out on your morning commute, chances are you're going to have to dodge more than a few potholes. Cities across the country say they have never been through a winter that has wreaked so much havoc on the road. NBC's Tom Costello is in hard-hit Washington, D.C. Tom, good morning.
Hey, good morning. You know, this is just one of thousands, I mean thousands of potholes here in Washington, D.C. that they've already filled, but it's already sinking yet again. If you hit one of these, you're talking at least $400 in damage to your car on average. And it's not just the East Coast and the Midwest. The Southeast has also been through a brutal winter. It's the bone-rattling crunch and thud echoing across the country this winter.
Hit the pothole, it jammed on the side of the rim, bent the rim, and had a flat.
Ruining suspensions, damaging tires, and forcing governments to fill the holes. 3/4 of cities and states have already outspent their winter maintenance budgets. In Washington, crews have already filled 9,000 holes. In Chicago, they're up to 165,000. In New York, where a school bus was nearly swallowed, the mayor has added an extra $7 million to the pothole budget. While in Indiana, the governor has ordered a pothole surge
to repair as many potholes as quickly as possible.
Here's how potholes develop. Pavement is laid over a base layer of gravel and soil. When water leaks through cracks in the pavement, it seeps into the base layer. When that water then freezes, it expands, moving the soil. Once a car rolls over the pavement in a weakened spot, the pavement cracks and gives way.
Wheels, tires, control arms.
Repair manager Danny Thomasine says car damage can get expensive quickly.
It hurt the axle, it broke the strut and the steering knuckle, and the wheel went back into the fender.
The total bill?
The total bill is about $3,000.
$3,000.
The potholes are only making the dire condition of the nation's infrastructure even worse. Now, the former Secretary of Transportation says Congress needs to step in with billions in repair money.
We are in a crisis in America when it comes to infrastructure.
Meanwhile, for the morning commute, watch your kidneys. Yeah, it happened to me. I hit a pothole twice on my right side, right? The front tire, then the back tire. It bent the rims, ruined the tires, cost me about $900, and it ain't cheap. So, guys, watch where you're driving. Yeah. Back to you.
All right, Tom Costello. No, it's a mess. I mean, you drive everywhere around this area, and all you see are these things that are like a foot deep.
Well, I was going to say, when they're filled with water, you don't know how deep they are until it's too late.
And this spring, summer, I predict massive water main breaks across the country because of the infrastructure, because of the expansion and contraction.
What's the good news from you today?
I feel very good. I love my selfie today.
Yeah, okay. No, you look good.
Thank you.
You need more of your ginger juice? You left it in the orange room.
I did.
Let me take a little swig of that.
Go juice.
Lighten you up. Morning, guys.
What you talking about, bud?
Oscars are this weekend.
Yeah.
One of the odds-on favorite for Best Supporting Actor, Jared Leto.
Oh. Yeah.
Jared Leto did something cool yesterday online. He asked his mother to be his date. Let me take you. Not only did he ask his mom, but he got his brother Shannon. Jared and Shannon, two brothers. They're in the band 30 Seconds to Mars. Great rock band, by the way. Jared's so amazing in Dallas Buyers Club. Really could have the pick of the litter as far as dates to the Oscars, but he and his brother FaceTimed their mom and asked her, and look at the reaction. We thought it was priceless. There's Constance Leto. She's there mouthing, "No! I will not go with you." Yeah, I'm busy. So we thought that was cute. Don't forget, as you're watching the Oscars, go to today.com. Let us know. You can vote for your favorite dress and stay informed with all the action. Of course, Monday morning we'll have our Today Oscars after party. So back to you guys. Happy Oscars.
By the way,
you're going,
Kathy
right?
Lee Gifford and I on the red carpet.
Oh,
love it. Watch out.
Man, get ready.
Yeah, you think you were worried about potholes. Wait until you see this.
Coming up, it is a key day at the drugged driving trial of Kerry Kennedy as she prepares to take the stand in her own defense. We're going to have the latest from the courtroom.
And as simple as asking an adult, an eye-opening Rawson Report's hidden camera investigation reveals just how easy it can be for teenagers to get their hands on alcohol. But first, this is Today on NBC.
Back now at 7:30 on this Wednesday morning, the 26th of February, 2014. If you look closely, yeah, you see a few snowflakes falling here in the northeast. But Al says this time, it's just a dusting. This time. But wait till the weekend, right?
Boy. Latter part of the weekend, beginning of next week.
All right. Meantime, let's take a look at some of the headlines. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer, she's under intense pressure to veto a bill passed by her state's legislature that allows businesses to deny service to gays. She vowed in a tweet last night to do the right thing for her state.
President Obama has told the Pentagon to prepare for a full troop withdrawal from Afghanistan by the end of the year if the Afghan government continues to refuse to sign a new security deal.
And preparations underway in Hollywood for Sunday's Oscars. Crews have been busy installing barricades around the Dolby Theater and building a large tent where stars will enter ahead of the award show, and where you will find, by the way, Al Roker and Kathy Lee Gifford.
That's right. They're not. In fact, they've added extra security.
Good move.
All right. Well, still ahead on a more serious note. Would you buy alcohol for an underage teenager? Well, wait until you find out what happened when we put adults to the test in a hidden camera Rawson Reports investigation. It may surprise you, especially how it falls along gender lines.
Right. All right. Also, are you passing your hang-ups when it comes to body image onto your kids? Maria Shriver's candid conversation with Cameron Diaz and a group of moms and daughters. All right. Interesting discussion. But we're going to begin this half hour with day 3 at the so-called drugged driving trial of RFK's daughter, Kerry Kennedy. And she is set to take the stand today. NBC's Katie Tour has the latest.
Kerry Kennedy walked into court on Tuesday without saying a word. Her family, including mother Ethel Kennedy, the widow of Robert F. Kennedy, have been at her side since the trial began. Inside court, the 54-year-old Kerry Kennedy, the ex-wife of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, watched intently as the prosecution argued that she should not have been driving after she knowingly took a sleeping pill. Kennedy is charged with misdemeanor driving under the influence after a July 2012 accident in Westchester County, New York. Police say she sideswiped a tractor-trailer and kept driving. According to their report, officers found her slumped over the wheel of her car in her gym parking lot. Kennedy has long maintained her innocence.
I remember getting on the highway, and then I have no memory until I was stopped at a traffic light and a police officer was at my car door.
Kennedy's lawyers argue that although she did take the generic form of Ambien, it was accidental, and that she mistook it for her thyroid medication. On the stand for the prosecution, toxicologist Elizabeth Spratt told jurors that in a woman of Kennedy's height and weight, it could be 2 hours before Ambien took effect. But on cross-examination, the defense got her to admit that Kennedy may not have known she had taken it. If convicted, she could face a year in jail, a fine, and a suspended license. For Today, Katie Tur, NBC News, New York.
Well, Lisa Bloom is today's legal analyst and author of a new book that is out today, Suspicion Nation, the inside story of the Trayvon Martin injustice and why we continue to repeat it. Lisa, good morning.
Good morning.
We'll talk about the book in a moment, but I want to ask you about this Kerry Kennedy trial. It's an interesting set of facts, and they're basically undisputed. Everyone agrees she took Ambien and then got behind the wheel, but she says it was an accident. How do prosecutors prove otherwise?
Well, the law assumes that we intend the logical consequences of our actions, but she's going to take the stand and say it was a mistake, and I don't know if they have any witnesses to counter that.
Do you think it's a good idea for her to take the stand? I mean, it's always tricky in a criminal trial for a defendant to take the stand, but in this case, does she have any choice?
Absolutely. She's going to say there was a similar pill, a thyroid pill, in a similar bottle, and it was simply an error on her part.
Do you think that the prosecutors have gone too far by taking this to trial? I mean, it seems strange. It's a misdemeanor case. There's not jail time necessarily at issue. Are you surprised we're all the way to a trial?
Yes, and you would expect this to result in 3 months of a suspended license, a simple plea bargain. Instead, we have a full-blown trial.
Well, we've seen her have people on the stand already talking about her character, her humanitarian work. Her mother, Ethel Kennedy, 85 years old, is coming to the courtroom with her. Does this kind of evidence sway jurors?
I think so, because the argument is she's a humanitarian. She would never do anything to intentionally harm another person. Her life's work has been to help other people. So we'll see how it turns out.
Well, let's talk about the book. It's out today, Suspicion Nation. It's an examination, a close examination of the trial of George Zimmerman. And ultimately, what do you conclude about it, having looked so closely at the case?
You know, Savannah, I was so disturbed day to day watching this case. I saw a case going off the rails, and afterwards, I couldn't put it behind me. I had to do my own investigation and tell the story inside the jury room with a new examination of what went on there. I told the story about witnesses who were not prepared, and ultimately, terrible mistakes made by the state of Florida, in my opinion, in prosecuting this case. I think it was a travesty of justice, and I tell the story of how that happened.
You are very tough on the prosecutors in the book. I mean, what's your ultimate conclusion about them? That they were ill-prepared, that they bungled the case, that their heart wasn't in it? I mean, what are you concluding here?
Well, I have the top 6 errors made by the prosecution. I leave it to the reader to draw their own conclusion about whether this was intentional or simply carelessness. I think ultimately, as we pull back, the prosecutors made many of the mistakes that we all make. That is racial profiling, an assumption about Trayvon Martin based on his skin color. I think the issue of race in particular was really fumbled by the state of Florida and by everybody in that courtroom. This case was simply mishandled, and we saw it again in the Michael Dunn case with 2 of the same prosecutors as in the George Zimmerman case.
Well, Lisa, the book is out today, Suspicion Nation. You really do the forensics on the case and look closely at the trial transcripts. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's take a turn. We'll get a check of the weather from Al.
Well, we have been experiencing one rough winter, but depending on where you are, it may be not so bad. In fact, right now we are looking at snow from Washington, D.C. all the way up into New York now. Philadelphia, this is going to be a quick hit. You're going to have snow this morning and clearing by the afternoon. Look for cold, clear conditions later on tonight. Now, as we move ahead, this is kind of interesting. Where the jet stream has bubbled up to the north, look at this. So far, compared to average for February, from Silver City all the way to Reno, Nevada, temperatures anywhere from 6 to 8 degrees above average. But then you come to the east where the jet stream has been way to the south. We're talking anywhere from 6 to 10 degrees below average. And in a place like Chicago, it has been misery. Average temperature for the winter, 19.1. It's so far in the top 5 coldest winters. And guess what? We've got about 6 days in a row of below 0 temperatures coming. So it's going to move up. And snowfall-wise, 68.3 inches of snow for the season so far, normally 28.8. Again, a top 5 winter. We still have a lot of snow to go, so look for that to move up as well. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Coming up on Trending, think you could find your old SAT scores?
Oh, not.
Who wants them? The surprising reason you might need to dust them off.
But coming up next, an eye-opening hidden camera investigation for parents. The simple way your underage son or daughter could be getting access to alcohol. Still happening right after this.
We're back at 7:42, and this morning on Rawson Reports, the epidemic of underage drinking. Thousands of teenagers die every year as a result, and authorities say it's often adults supplying them the alcohol. So today, national investigative correspondent Jeff Rawson used his hidden cameras to put adults to the test. And the results are somewhat shocking. Jeff, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Matt. They certainly are. And this is such an important issue. As you said, so many people are dying from this. Spring break is coming up, and you know what that means. Teenagers are looking to score alcohol. And you're about to see how easy it is for them to get it. If you were walking into a liquor store and a couple of kids you've never met before asked you, hey, can you buy us booze? Would you do it? Wait until you see what we found. Surprising results when we went undercover in the suburbs. It's the middle of the day.
Could you do me a huge favor?
And these kids want a drink.
Do you think you could get me a six-pack?
They hit the jackpot. Adults they just met buying them booze.
$7.
We're watching it all on hidden camera.
Hi, ma'am.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Make no mistake, underage drinking can turn tragic. 4,700 young people die each year from alcohol poisoning to drunk driving. Authorities say it's often an adult supplying the booze. So we set up an experiment in suburban New Jersey. We wired up this store with our hidden cameras and hired these 2 actors. They're both over 21, but posing as underage teens.
Excuse me, sir.
Approaching nearly 2 dozen customers.
Do you think you could get us a six-pack?
We were encouraged. None of the men gave them alcohol.
I don't think so. We're just trying to get a couple beers for tonight.
No. You're a child.
No.
You look like a baby.
But the women...
Hey, ma'am, do you think you could do me a big favor?
We're about to surprise us.
Please. Do you think you could get me a six-pack? Please.
How could you do this to me?
She seems to know it's wrong, but keep watching.
Thank you.
You're getting in trouble.
No.
That's right. She goes inside, grabs the beer,
Could you charge that separate?
and gives our fake teens the alcohol.
Guys, don't get in trouble.
No.
That's when I come out to talk.
Oh, no! I was thinking about you guys when I did it.
Why'd you do that?
Because I felt guilty.
Do you feel bad?
Yes, I do feel bad. But what are you going to do? They're going to do it whether I buy it or somebody else is going to buy it. They're going to find a way.
Now, some women did say no.
Could you do me a favor?
Sorry. No,
Please.
I'm sorry.
But it didn't take long to find another yes.
Excuse me, could you do us a favor and grab us a six-pack?
Oh, if I get in trouble, these people know me in here. I'm sorry, guys.
But suddenly she changes her mind.
Oh, my God.
She buys the beer, and within minutes, this discreet handoff.
Oh, my God. Be good, guys, please.
Hi, ma'am.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Why'd you do it?
Because they looked old enough. I thought that they just didn't have ID. Next time I'll know.
We showed our results to Jan Withers,
Oh, my God.
president of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. No man gave our actors alcohol, but it was the women who did.
I found that just amazing. I expect them to be more protective, more cautious.
But the biggest shock of the day came from this next woman.
What do you want? Come on. Hurry up.
A six-pack of Bud Light?
As she goes inside, she issues this warning.
You ever get me in trouble for this, I will hunt you down like a dog.
We watch as the woman buys the beer and gives it to them outside, even offering this tip.
Don't hang out in front of the liquor store. You gotta be a little bit further away now.
Do you know it can be dangerous for kids to have alcohol?
Look, mister, get away from me. With all your cameras, goodbye.
It's dangerous. It's not fun and games at all. And we need to protect our kids.
Told you it was surprising. Police say there is a reason the legal age is 21 to drink. Studies show kids get drunk faster because they don't weigh as much, and they're more likely, as we all know, to use bad judgment when they are drunk. Experts say our story should be a wake-up call for everybody, Matt, and a good reminder to talk to your kids so they actually don't go and do that and try to get the alcohol.
What was stunning to me is even as they would give the kids the beer, they would then say to them, now be good.
As if that's enough.
Exactly.
And you can trust a kid to be good enough.
This tug-of-war going on inside their minds. Jeff Ross and this fascinating stuff. Coming up, did she drop too much weight on her way to being crowned the biggest loser? Rachel Fredrickson to respond to some criticism that she's been facing. But up next, Carson has more on our Love Your Selfie series, plus a live performance a little later on in the show from The Fray. But first, these messages.
Now, if there were a gold medal for sign making, those folks would deserve it. Yeah. 7:51. Let's see what Carson's up to in the Orange Room. Do you love yourself? We love you too.
It continues today, guys. Today we're talking about things that your parents pass down and how it affects your body image. Love your selfies. Let's take a look at our partners with AOL on the poll. 57% of moms worry about how their body image affects their children. We asked our Facebook friends to write in a few things that maybe their mom passed on to them. Here's Maria. Maria says her mom said, make sure that the older you get, the more time you put into taking care of yourself, inside and out. It was good advice. We're asking you, moms, to take a little Love Your Selfie shot with your daughter. Hashtag it, send it to us. We'll put it up on the wall. And we got a good one yesterday from our friend Pink. There's Pink's beautiful daughter, Willow. Pink wrote, today's show, Love Your Selfie, here you go. Willow is nothing like me, of course, with a little wink there. So send us your picture. We'll put it up on the wall here. Look, we got some great, beautiful moms and daughters. I'm not sure what's going on here with the yogurt masks, but that's okay. Love your selfie anyway. Guys, we'll have more on this in the next half hour. Back to you.
Yeah, Carson, we're going to continue the discussion, how to help your kids develop a healthier body image. Maria Shriver and Cameron Diaz will be here.
All right, plus unexpected help for baby-faced guys. Behold the facial hair transplant. That's right. That's right. You take it from your ears and you put it on your face.
Wow. And you spend thousands doing it.
Why its popularity is soaring.
Also, two of the biggest stars in Sochi, Meryl Davis and Charlie White, are going to bring their historic gold medals to our rink for a live performance.
But first, your local news and weather.